welcome you. Thanks, Sandy. Anyway, good afternoon, everybody, again, and welcome to our learning series. This is our fourth. I did want to let you know, though, that next week we will be asking you to complete an evaluation. So we will be sending that out to each and every one of you. I just wanted you to know that. These evaluations will certainly help us, right, to plan for the future and other maybe learning series that we might be doing. So again, this week's presenter is Tricia Tetz. The presentation is going to be on your reality or theirs. So you probably all know Tricia by now. She is a recreation therapist with the Alberta Health Services as well as behavioral consultant. And sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Wendy. I'm one of the community partners in Action and just helping Ellen out today because she's away. So before I get you going here, Tricia, I'm going to admit a few other people I've noticed have just joined us here. So if you just give me a second here. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to you, Tricia.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm really excited about today's presentation because this is a topic that's very close to my heart, and it's something that I try to explain a lot when I'm on the floor, but there's a lot of challenges around this approach, their reality versus our reality. So gone, thankfully, are the days where we correct dementia when they talk about things that are in the past, or things that might just be completely off the wall, completely wrong. We understand better now that a person who's living with dementia has actual physical brain challenges, and what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing is just as real to them as our reality is to us. So in fact, who is to say that your reality that you're experiencing right now is correct? I mean, it is entirely possible that what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing is completely false. Maybe I'm not here. Maybe you aren't actually watching me. Maybe you are just reliving a memory from 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. Or maybe you've made me up as a way to cope with what's happening around you. Maybe you are the one that actually has dementia. Maybe you are living in a care facility and you're actually sitting in a dining room right now, but your brain has made me up to adjust to the situation so that it makes sense to you. Maybe the people around you are going to come up right away and tell you that it's time to go to bed. And when you say that you want to go home, they're going to correct you. And they'll say things to you like, no, you can't leave. You live here now. And how would that make you feel? So maybe, just maybe, that's actually what's happening right now, because no one who's living in a different reality will ever think to themselves, oh, yeah, it must be me. I must be the one that's going crazy. We're not going to think that. We're going to think that everybody around us is the ones that are off. There's something wrong with them. I know I'm perfectly fine. So if that suggestion made you feel at all uncomfortable, that's good, because now you have just a fraction of an idea of what a person living with dementia might feel all day long. Every single time something happens that they're not quite understanding. And compassion and understanding is all we have right now when we're caring for someone who's living with dementia. We don't have a cure yet. And so until we do, all we have is good care. Oh, why isn't this? There we go. So I'm going to show you a picture, and the picture that's going to come up right away, there's two things that you could be seeing. The first one is you could see a vase, or you could see two people looking at each other. So no matter which one you saw, who is right? Are the people that saw two faces right? Or are the people that see a vase, are they the ones that are right? Or what if you can actually go back and forth and see both pictures? Are you actually experiencing two different realities? So that's sort of what it's like for someone who's living with dementia. For people who are living with dementia, we need to focus on the quality of life. It's not uncommon for someone who has dementia to ask for someone they've loved who's passed away, like a spouse, a parent, a sibling, a friend, maybe unfortunately even a child. And I've been in situations and seen situations where someone has asked for, say, their husband, only to be told over and over and over again that he's already passed away. So each and every time that person experiences that hurt, that loss, that shock, we need to ask ourselves, is having that person experience that loss from the very beginning, is it helping them or is it hurting them? Obviously, experiencing a loss from the very beginning is going to be a lot harder, and they feel that fresh pain each and every time. So, if someone's unable to remember that their spouse has passed, is it really the best thing for them to experience that loss over and over again? Experience the pain isn't going to be helping them. They're not going to suddenly remember. They're not going to be able to go through all the stages of the grief process. And so by telling them every time, we're not only causing them to experience that loss again, but also the additional stress and confusion that dementia will bring with that. So how could their spouse have passed away? They were just with them this morning. Why aren't they there? Why weren't they there when they passed? How did it happen? What do they mean? I already know. How can I get to my family to fix this? So that confusion, that fear, that loss, how is that at all helpful for that person? We used to be told that we should never lie to a person with dementia, that we need to correct them, reorientate them to the present. But this philosophy didn't take into account a person's mental health or their emotions. And I remember when I started in this field 20 plus years ago, and I was instructed to correct the residents. When someone made an inappropriate comment, I was instructed to sternly tell them not to say that. That wasn't appropriate. And if they continued, they were going to be in big trouble. But even as young as I was and as new to the field as I wasn't comfortable with that. And I disagreed with that philosophy right from the beginning. So once, and I hadn't even graduated yet, I was still a college student. I was working in a long-term care facility and I was walking down the hallway. And this lady was standing at an empty nursing desk and she was kind of tapping the counter, tap, tap, tap. And when I walked by, she asked me if the bus would be coming by soon. So if I had followed my instructions, I would have had to tell her that no, this wasn't a bus stop. She was living in a long-term care home. She lived here and she was inside and there would be no bus coming by. But my heart took over and I told her, I looked at my watch. I'm like, oh, I think it might be about another 20 minutes before the bus comes. And I always, even back then, naturally gave myself and them an out. I used words like, I think the bus is coming in 20 minutes. That way, if she came back later, I could just easily apologize for my mistake, and we could just move on. About 10 minutes later, when I did pass her, she was happily sitting in the television room watching TV. And I really believe that this was in part due to the fact that I didn't distress her. I didn't upset her. I didn't tell her that she was wrong. I just said, oh, about 20 minutes, and 20 minutes is a long time. And she eventually moved past wanting to wait for a bus and wandered off into the living room and was content. And then, unfortunately, even in this day and age, I still see reality orientation used without people even realizing they're using it. So one time, and this is very recent, I was sitting in my office and a resident was walking by the dining room. My office faced the dining room, and a staff commented on her wonderful selection of stuffed animals on her walker. So the resident stopped and started talking about how much she loved them and they had such pretty eyes and how soft they were. And she was smiling and she was petting them. And the staff member looked at her and said, well, you don't think they're actually alive, do you? They're not real. And I could see this because I turned my chair because this exchange started off so sweetly. And I saw the resident just sort of visibly take a step back. And she kind of began stuttering, and she's like, well, no, I know, I guess I know they're not I know they're not real. They're and my heart broke because this exchange started off making her so happy, and it quickly spiraled into making her feel really stupid and maybe ashamed because maybe in her mind they were alive. But does it matter if she thought they were alive, if they made her happy? I mean, was it necessary to point out a flaw in her? Was she maybe responding to the implication that they were fake? Even with dementia, maybe she's reading body language and the tone of the voice, and she could tell that the staff didn't think they were real. So, did she go along with that because she could guess what the socially appropriate response should be, not what she was truly feeling? And then she turned and started walking away back to her room. And you can bet that I was out of my chair so fast and booking it down the hallway. And I caught up to her, and I made a really big deal about how cute her animals were. And I asked if I could hold one, and I was petting it as if it were a real puppy. And she was smiling and happy when I left because she got that validation from me. And I said, they're so lucky to have you. I know you give them all the love and attention that they need. It's really important to recognize that the person's belief about reality are just as real to them as our beliefs about our reality are to us. So it's really unhelpful to confront a person with truth, what we call truth, when they believe in something different. This is kind of what we refer to as validation therapy, and it recognizes the emotions, and that's what we want to focus on. Recognizing emotions rather than what we call reality. And another example, I hear this all the time when someone says, I want to go home, or how do I get home? People, I often hear staff saying, oh, you can't go home. You live here now. This is your house. Um, you know, you're here. You're going to sleep here. We're going to feed you. But what someone's really asking for when they say, I want to go home, is they're looking for reassurance. They're looking for something familiar, someplace comforting, someplace that they can be productive. They might be looking for a safe place. They might be experiencing anxiety at the moment or depression. They could be insecure. They could have a fear, or maybe they're in pain, because when you're in pain, you want to be home and in your own bed. You don't want to be out and about somewhere where you're not understanding. And pain is a big concern because people who are living with dementia are always under medicated for pain. People, the general stat, the people with dementia, when they're in pain, they get 1/4 of the amount of pain medications that someone with the same condition without dementia would get, but they tend to get 3 times the amount more of antipsychotics. So we need to figure out if that's why they want to be home, because they know where their own Tylenol is. We want to strive to validate their feelings. So, asking the question when they're saying, I want to go home, ask them, is there something you need to do at home, or do you just want to be there? Can often their answer can give an insight into what unmet need might be causing them to be wanting to go home. The other thing we want to do is give comfort. Comfort validates their needs, and that's really important. Sometimes if someone's saying, I want to go home, it's how someone who's living with dementia is telling you they're tense, they're anxious, they're scared. They need that extra comfort. By responding to them in a calm, positive manner, acknowledging the emotion behind the question or the emotion behind the behavior, this helps them feel understood and supported. When you're approaching a person with dementia, you want to approach with a calm, soothing, relaxed manner. If you're calm, they're going to read your body language. They're not going to read a lot of tension or fear in the situation, and it's going to help them be calm as well. If they like hugs or they're okay with being touched, this is a good time to touch them. Some people connect really well through physical touch. It could be one of their love languages. It could also just be, gentle stroking on their arm or holding their hand, anything that helps them calm down, going into hand under hand, Putting pressure right here on the base of the palm is really great. That actually releases hormones that reduce cortisol, which is the stress hormone in your brain. So if you're holding their hand, just kind of, grasp it gently like that. That's going to help as well. You want to avoid reasoning and explanations with the person. Trying to use reason and logic is not recommended at all when someone has a brain disease. It only makes them get more insistent, more agitated, and more upset. Don't try to explain to them that they are already in their own home, that the facility is their own home, or telling them, they sold their home 3 years ago. We want to find out what home they're talking about. Is it their home from their childhood? Is it their home from when they were a young adult or first married? Is it the home they lived in right before they moved into a facility? What does home mean to them? Is it a physical place? Is it an emotional place? They won't be able to process the information you give them, like, "Oh, we sold your home, Dad, 3 years ago. You have to stay here. There's nowhere else for you to go." They're not going to be able to process that because they might have just in their mind been there that morning. How could you have sold it so quickly? Why would you sell it from them? They live there. Why would you do that? That was just mean of you. And then suddenly you're the really, really bad guy. Redirection is another technique. So we have validation, validating their feelings, and then we want to redirect someone. So redirection is a technique in which you shift a distressed person's attention away from the situation, away from the situations that's causing them anxiety, anger, fear. It could be causing a dangerous or unsafe behavior. And we want to redirect them to a more pleasant emotional situation, a more relaxed environment for them. The whole idea of redirection is that you want the person to feel cared about and that they feel listened to. And you want to make sure that they are in a safe situation. So, being able to redirect is a very effective dementia technique, and it's a skill that does improve with practice. So, don't be discouraged if the first few times you attempt this, it doesn't work perfectly, because it really is a skill that we want to develop. So ways to redirect people is take a few seconds for yourself to think about how you're going to answer them. When they ask you a question like, can I go home? You might need to just sort of turn your head for a second, think about what you're going to say to them. It's really important to give yourself some time. Take a deep breath. I can answer this the best way I can for them. Also, watch nonverbal cues. Use gentle touch, use eye contact, use a calm demeanor. If you're raising your voice, if it starts getting really high, they're going to pick up on that and they're going to know I'm in a stressful situation and they're not going to be able to respond very well. So you're more likely to reap the same response that you give them. You're going to get it back. So don't get upset, don't get angry, use nonverbal cues to make things better for them. The other thing you can do is be creative in your verbal responses. So there's no need to make up this great, big, convoluted response just to stay in your loved one's reality. If your loved one is worried about something obscure, say like I need to file taxes, they're suddenly really focused on filing taxes, or they're furious about an event that happened a long time ago, or they want to tell the neighbors off because their dog is barking relentlessly. If it's something like taxes, you can take care of it. Pick up your phone, make a pretend phone call the accountant. Oh, good. Yeah, no, that's great. They're all done. Wonderful. Mom, the taxes have already been filed. We signed for them. You'll be getting a refund in a couple of weeks. Oh, great. And you can do that over and over and over again. If you're right on the spot, you can pretend to make a phone call. You can go outside for a couple of minutes, whatever's necessary to help your loved one understand that you're getting the job done for them. You're not dismissing it. You're not pretending it's not there. You're not ignoring it. You're going to deal with it for them because once it's dealt with, boom, we're good. It's all done. You also want to remember to focus on what really matters for them. So, we're talking about keeping the person who's living with dementia or your loved one safe. And secondary to this, we want them to know that they don't have to have a lot of emotional stress, trauma, or sorrow. This is okay. We're going to take care of this. We don't, anything that doesn't fall into one of these categories, is going to be much of a much less importance. So focus on the major things, the things that are really important. Another thing to never do is to correct your loved one. Mom, it's December. We don't have to file taxes for quite a while. What do you mean it's December? No, I'm wearing a sundress. I'm going outside. This will only make them more frustrated. So many care partners, for example, many people with dementia will cry or become upset about someone who's died years ago and why isn't she home yet? An appropriate response, like we talked about early, is not, don't you remember? I already told you she died 8 years ago. You should remember this by now. Better to address your loved one's concern why that person isn't home yet. It's more along the lines of, I wouldn't worry about it yet. They're probably still at work. I think they usually work till about 6. And so we would have heard something if she was in trouble. She has her phone with her. So why don't we get a snack and go watch some TV while we wait? Um, if they're asking to go home, I want to go home. Your home sounds lovely. Tell me more about your home. What's the first thing you're going to do when you get home? What's your favorite room in the house? You'll get some really cute answers. It's lovely. So dementia causes both the physical and chemical brain changes. And these changes cause an inability to actually process the environment around them the way someone who does not have dementia can. For example, a resident I was working with once, she was in a wheelchair and she was able to foot propel around. But in her mind, she was substantially younger than she actually was. So she would come up to me, and this was a frequent occurrence for her. She'd come up to me and she'd be like, I'm stuck on this bike. Can you help me get off my bike? And she would try to get out of her wheelchair, and she was so confused as to why she couldn't get off her bike. So instead of telling her, oh no, you're in a wheelchair because you live in a long-term care facility, because her mind wouldn't be able to comprehend that. They took that I'm rolling sensation, I'm using my feet to I must be on a bike. So if I tried to, correct her and tell her she's in a wheelchair, she would just get angry and upset. So instead, I'm going to meet her in her reality. I'm like, of course I can help you. Let me push you over here to the table. So she was good with that. We went over to the table. And when we got up there, I put the brakes on. Said, I'm just putting your brakes on. Are you comfortable? You know what? It's kind of coffee time. I was just going to grab myself a coffee. Can I get you one too? And she said, no, but I'd love a hot chocolate. So I got her a hot chocolate, sat down beside her, talked for about 15 minutes. Then a program came up and she went and did the program, and she was very content until lunch. If I had just tried to tell her that she was completely wrong, she would have got really agitated and really, really upset. So we need to be patient, and we need to deal with each situation as though it were a brand new situation, because for that resident, it is brand new every time it happens. The upside being that each time we respond to that resident or that our loved one who's living with dementia, we gain experience on the best way to assist them. Then we want to distract them. So we validated their feelings. We have got them into a different setting, a different environment. Then we want to distract somebody. So after you redirect them, we want to bring in a positive distraction. The point of the distraction is to get them to focus on something else that won't cause them to be upset. A great way to do this is by asking questions. It's a simple way to distract someone who has dementia when they're upset, and it works well because it requires them to stop thinking about what's bothering them. They need to focus on the questions you're asking them or on another topic completely. When you use this technique, make sure you ask the question completely unrelated to the thing that's bothering your loved ones. It can be similar, but you want it to be different. So you can try asking them about something in the immediate area, such as whether your parents' shoelace or if your shoelaces are tied. What's that on the nearby sign? I can't quite see it. Ask questions, ask them about their past. Oh, what was your favorite dog? Especially if there's a dog walking by. You want to ask them all sorts of questions. The next one, and this is something that anybody in recreation therapy knows, is give them food. You want to give them a snack. Food is the best distraction for people living with dementia. So this can be really common because dementia outbursts are often triggered by hunger or by thirst. So if possible, offer them a small snack, a treat, or a drink always offer them a glass of water. It amazes me how many people will take a glass of water over a cup of coffee if they're given the option. So if your parent has difficulty, or your loved one has difficulty, or the person who's living with dementia has difficulty comprehending your words, then just simply go ahead and prepare a snack and present it to them. I'm hungry. I brought us something to eat. If you plan to use this as a form of distraction, stick to healthier options if you can. But if they're upset, give them their favorite treat. It's going to be far more helpful. Another thing you can do is move to a new location. And this is really important because the human brain is heavily influenced by its surroundings. So it tends to associate certain thoughts with certain spaces. So the same mental process that makes you forget something, like you're going into the kitchen to get and you pass through a doorway, your brain actually kind of recognizes the doorway as the transition period. So you'll lose a lot of your thoughts. You'll get into the kitchen and you're like, what did I come in here for again? Or, you go into your bedroom and like, you cross that doorway and your brain literally resets. So you can use that technique for someone who's living with dementia as well. Take them into a new room, and sometimes it just might reset the brain, which is great. Use this a lot in the facility. When someone's really upset, stressed, agitated, we'll go outside for a walk. Not only is the fresh air and the exercise good for them, but the whole leaving and coming back, going through those doorways is very, very helpful for resetting the brain. Sometimes just leading them into a different room might be enough to distract them, going from the bedroom to the bathroom, or going from the living room to the kitchen. Selecting a calm area, make sure it's well lit, something soothing is maybe playing. Those are really good techniques to get someone to refocus. You can also start an activity that they're going to enjoy. You know what they like, you know what they like to do, you know what they're able to do. So if your loved one is fixated on something that's bothering them, they might not want to exactly try reading, knitting, or playing a game until you suggest it, or until you just start it, or until you give it to them. Also, fidget toys are great. I know we focus a lot on children and fidget toys, but fidget toys can be really helpful for people who are living with dementia. Remember that most dementias regress the brain, similar to how a child's brain develops. So children love the fidget toys. It just stimulates them. If you give them a fidget toy, there's those new pop ones. They're kind of fun when my daughter brings them. I can't stop doing them. I've also, depending on where they are with dementia, the water mats that you lay on the floor for babies, and you push things and they move in the water, just things to refocus them. Something that's texture, something that's touch is a great way, is a good activity, is an easy activity to give them. So don't get into anything too challenging, too difficult. Just sort of have a small stash of things that you can sort of pull out. Oh, can you open this envelope for me? If you give them 3 or 4 envelopes to open, can you close these envelopes for me? All of those little things are going to be really, really helpful. And then another amazing one is use music. Music is a powerful form of distraction for people. Try singing a song. One of the ones that's my go-to in facility care is "You Are My Sunshine." Everyone knows that song, and when I sing it to them, they instantly have a smile. I don't have a great singing voice, but it doesn't matter because they're not going to remember that I have an awful voice. And in that moment, they're smiling and singing along with me. You can further engage them by clapping your hands, or if you have an instrument, little drums are great, maracas are great, anything that just sort of gets that rhythm going. That's what we want to do, is get their brain in a different area. Music, you can have the playlist, you can have hymns that a lot of times is very calming for people. You want to find the music. I know I talked about this a lot in other presentations. I won't focus on it too much, but we attach ourselves to 2 different eras of music. One is our parents' era, so things that we heard growing up, that fun, that good memory kind of music. And the other one is in your teens to early 20s. So go for music in that era. So now I'm actually going to get you guys to unmute yourself, because I'm going to give you a couple scenarios. And what I'm wanting is some responses from people, a way to, specifically validate, and a way to redirect, and a way to distract. So I'm going to give you the scenario, unmute yourselves and just, toss out the answer. Or if you want to type it in the chat bar, you can do that. And maybe Wendy can read those out for me. So scenario 1, the person who's living with dementia, they're going, school's over. My mom is coming to pick me up. I need to get outside and wait for her. I'm really upset. Like, she's going to be here. I'm going to get in big trouble if I'm not outside waiting for her. She needs to pick me up. So what is something we would say to that person to validate their feelings?
Have you got your lunch kit?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Anybody else?
Don't worry,
I love hearing.
we'll find her.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch the last bit of that. Don't worry.
We'll go find her.
We'll go find her. That's a really good one. Yeah. I always love hearing people's responses because they're so different from the things that I think, and they're all right. So it's great. Anybody else?
What did you learn today?
Oh, I love it. What did you learn in school today? Good. What's something we would say to redirect her?
Let's go and look for your boots.
Perfect. Yes. Anybody else?
Why don't we have a snack while we're waiting?
Yeah, that's a great one. Yes. You must be hungry. You've been in school all day. Let's have a snack. I love it. What about to distract them?
In the chat box, Trisha, we have, did you say goodbye to your teacher?
Oh, yes, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is, shall we walk and see if she's coming?
Good one. Yes. Yeah. And of course, the snack that was mentioned earlier is a great distraction for this one too. Yeah, those are wonderful. So second scenario that we have, the person who is living with dementia, say they're a gentleman and they're pacing up and down and they're like, I need to go to work. I need to leave. I'm already late. Like this, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get in trouble from my boss. What is something we would say to validate them? Acknowledge their feelings.
Where do you work?
Where do you work? Yeah.
What kind of work do you do?
What kind of work do you do? Absolutely. What about to redirect them? So to kind of get them into a different area.
We'll go and look. We'll get your coat.
That's perfect. Yeah, you can't leave without a coat. Let's go find it. Very good. What's another redirection? Another way to get them out?
Can we walk there?
Can we walk there? That's a really good one too. What about to distract them? Now we're trying to kind of focus on something else.
What's your favorite part of your work?
Yep.
Well, that's
Very
actually
good.
the thing is still focusing.
But that's okay because you're talking about something else, right? You're not talking about them leaving. It also involves that validation part of it, like what's the most important part or the favorite part of your work. You're still acknowledging their feelings, but you are distracting them from leaving and just walking out of the house or the building to try and get to work.
Have you packed your lunch?
Ah, really good one. Food. I can't let you go to work without a lunch. Let's go pack it. Yeah. Anybody else have another distraction?
We have a few in the chat, Trisha.
Okay.
What will you do at work today? How long
Perfect.
have you worked?
Oh,
How
that's
do
a
you
good
get
one.
to work?
Yes.
Maybe we could take them to a window and say, what's the weather like today, so that you know whether or not you need to wear a coat or not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Those are all absolutely perfect. So when I use validation therapy, I always provide an out for myself because you never know how suspicious they could be of you, because sometimes I've run into people that are very suspicious, and some of these, more basic techniques didn't work for them. So I often provide an out, and I learned this the hard way.
Tricia, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I can. Where did I get muted?
That was me. Sorry, Tricia.
That's okay. So I'll just kind of start from the beginning of my story because I don't know where I got muted. So I once had a gentleman that asked when I was off work, and he's like, I am stuck here. I can't seem to get out of the building. Can I catch a ride home with you? And it was like 9:30 in the morning. So I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'm not off work till 5.
Sorry, Tricia. Can you unmute again?
How's that?
Better.
Okay. So again, I'm not sure where I was. So the gentleman had asked me for a ride home after work. It was about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. I said I would give him a ride home and that we could meet up around 5. He has dementia all day long. He asks people to give him a ride home, no big deal. So went through the day, saw him a couple times during the day, said hello, waved, and then went home. And then I came back the next day. And when I got onto the unit, he came storming up to me and he said, where were you? You were supposed to take me home last night. And I was really in shock because he doesn't even remember where he was. He actually believed that he was working on the rigs, and the facility was an oil camp. And so I couldn't believe that he remembered me from the day before and that I was going to give him a ride home. So that was a big learning experience for me. So I just took a step back and I said, I am so sorry. I came here when I got off a little bit late, about 5:30, and I didn't see you. So I had assumed you'd got a ride home. And he's like, well, I didn't. I was stuck here last night too. Can you give me a ride home today? I learned my lesson. I was like, I can't because I'm actually here for the next week and I was dropped off. So I don't even have a vehicle anymore. He's like, oh. So instead, I went into the validation, the distraction techniques, redirecting him. So I, had told him a little white lie. I had apologized, and then I was able to move on. So what I asked him were a series of questions about, well, how long have you worked here for? I think, I've seen you around quite a bit. What do you do here? What are you going to do on your days off? So not only did that distract him, but he actually got to express his feelings and his fears of not being able to get home. So I was able to guide that conversation to happier times and happier emotions for him. So when you're talking to a person with dementia, really listen to what that person is saying and pick up on the details that they give. Listen to those details that they're using to provide. So for this particular resident, in our conversation, he mentioned his vehicle and he mentioned the exact make, the exact model, and the year of his truck. So obviously that was important to him. So going on his statement, I started asking him questions about his vehicle. How long had he had it? Would he recommend someone buying that make or model? Because what a weird coincidence. I was actually in the market for a new vehicle and I was, could he give me some tips on what I should look for? And it was really cute because he looked at me, he says, well, what do you want in a vehicle? And I said, I want it to be red. And he had a really good laugh. He's like, no, you don't focus on the color. I got a whole lecture on why color was the last thing that I should be looking for. And we had a really long conversation about what kind of vehicle he recommends, features that I should look for, those kinds of things. Before too long, it was lunchtime and I guided him to his table, thanked him so much for that advice. and he was pretty much content for the rest of the day. So in that conversation, I looked for cues. I looked for cues as to why he was wanting to leave, what was his underlying concern. So in his case, I really felt that he just needed to connect with someone. He needed someone to actually hear him, because when he kept asking the staff to go home, they're like, no, you live here now. And he's like, well, I'm staying here because I'm in camp, but I don't actually live here. I want to get home. So just having that opportunity to talk about his life for him in that moment was enough for him. Being able to get it out, guiding that conversation, taking him into the dining room, having lunch was a safe place. You want to remember that there's no hard and fast rules here, then there's no magical response that will fix every situation. So you have to use your knowledge of that person. The more you know about that person, the more you're able to help them in the moment. Use your knowledge of the disease. What do you know about their particular kind of dementia? What are often the behaviors, reactive responsive behaviors that come along with that? What are some of their individual particular memory challenges? Because it's not a textbook, there's never a textbook case. Everyone responds a little bit differently. Use your knowledge of the situation to help that person. So for example, I knew that that gentleman thought he was in an oil field camp, so I could use that in my conversation to talk with him. Using that information, you can validate, reassure, redirect them. Another situation that comes up a lot for someone who is living with dementia is stealing. So it's kind of funny because or them stealing or having something stole from them. So I remember when my grandpa, he was not actually diagnosed with dementia back then, and I was still in high school, but he was talking to me and he was furious because someone came and stole all the trees out of his yard that night. And he even called the police and they weren't taking it seriously, and they wouldn't even come out and look at them. And these trees were gone and he was so mad. I mean, yes, they were probably there 25 years ago, but they were no longer there. They had been removed, they had died, they had moved from one farm to another farm at one point. So maybe he was remembering the trees from the old quarter section. But this happens a lot. People who have dementia sort of remember things a little bit differently, and then they accuse people of stealing them. So you know when you take something and you put it in a safe spot and then you forget where that safe spot is, only to find it weeks, days, months, years later. So now just take away that step of where you remember that you put it in a safe spot, and suddenly it just poof, disappears. Obviously, if it just poof disappears, somebody stole it. And if you happen to find it, you're not going to think, oh, I put it there. No, because that poof, it's gone. You're going to think, you know what? There's people in my house and they're coming in while I'm asleep and they're moving things around. I told my daughter that this was happening. She hasn't believed me. So I'm going to stick this cup in the freezer so that next time she comes, I can show her I found it and it was wrong. It doesn't, it's not logical. It doesn't make sense. But for someone who's living with dementia, they will fill in these details. So people are coming in the house and they're moving things. You go out and you buy a pack of toilet paper because your toilet paper is disappearing and people are actually stealing the toilet paper right from your room. So you know what? I'm going to hide this toilet paper under my bed so that the people, when they come in to steal it, they can't find it either. And then you forget that it's under your bed and they stole my toilet paper again. So it just goes around and around and around in a circle. For a person who's living with dementia, they will actually fill in these details. They will develop facts in their mind and they will believe these facts to be 100% true. They can remember things in vivid details and things that you say to them, and they will believe this so strongly that if you gave them a lie detector test that someone was coming in their house, they actually saw someone sneak in the back door last night and go into their bathroom and take the toilet paper, they will believe that they will pass a lie detector test because they have, it's called confabulated that story. So confabulation is actually a symptom of various memory disorders, which made up memories will fill in any gaps. So while this condition at first might sound like they're lying, confabulation only occurs when you have a condition that actually affects your memory, such as dementia. So again, there's no reason to correct them. They know their facts and you do not, because you weren't there and you didn't see that person sneaking into the door. So you are wrong. Arguing with them will only cause them to be upset and angry and maybe even blame you. Maybe you're the one that came in and stole the toilet paper. Otherwise, why are you trying so hard to convince me that the toilet paper hasn't been stolen? It's because you stole it. I know you did. It is particularly hard when you are the one being accused of stealing something or moving something or doing something horrible that you didn't do, and they believe it so strongly because of this confabulation. So it's really important to take a step back and regroup yourself. And if you start feeling frustrated or defensive, remind yourself that this is a confabulation. So did my aunt really steal half a box of Cheerios from my grandpa? Probably not, but he told people that she did. And he was really upset that she would steal half a box of Cheerios. And it's natural to be upset if your dad's accusing you of stealing something like that. The frustration of being accused of something so silly, plus the fact that he's telling other people. And what if they did actually believe him? Because sometimes people like to believe strange things like that. But understanding that he's confabulating this story, and putting together random pieces. The last time he saw her, he remembered having Cheerios in the cupboard, and now he can't find them anymore. So she must have stolen them and taken them home. Those, Cheerio thieves, they're out there apparently. So what if it's something more serious than Cheerios though? What if someone's accusing you of stealing money? It's very, very common for a person living with dementia to hide money because they don't want it to be stolen. But that accusation is a little bit more serious than half a box of Cheerios. So accusations happen when a person who's living with dementia confabulates the story. And there are four common ones that I see and hear all the time. The first one is stealing money. You stole money from my wallet. You're going to want to make sure that you are giving the best response, not necessarily saying, yeah, I took the money, because you didn't. But a way that you can acknowledge their feelings, you can validate their feelings. So the loss of control combined with paranoia, delusion will actually cause people to think that they are being stolen from. So if someone accuses you of stealing money, you want to do things like, oh, your money is missing? I can see why you're upset. Don't worry. I am on your side. I'm here to help you. We're going to look for it. Let's start over here in this drawer. I can't remember if I mentioned this already too, but a lot of times what happens is someone with dementia has, a stack of money or checkbooks, and they don't want them to get stolen. They get very paranoid. So they hide things and they don't remember hiding them. And then all of a sudden you must be the one that stole them. Another response you can do is, oh no, the money is missing. That must be very upsetting. Let's check your bank statements to make sure it's all there. And that's something you might be able to pull up online. Look, this is the balance, the same as it was yesterday. Everything's good. Another response is, it looks like we need to look into this a little bit more because this has been happening a couple times and you could be right. Let's go to the bank tomorrow when it's opened and straighten this out. It's 3 o'clock and we won't have time to get down to the bank and talk to someone and figure this out today. So I'm going to call the bank and we'll go first thing in the morning. Chances are they've forgotten it by the time morning comes. You want to make sure you do things that help them feel that they are still in control. Don't just take all their money and all the banking away from them. That's going to frustrate them even more. Give them a checkbook. It can be an old checkbook. It could be a fake checkbook. You could print checks off of your computer that don't actually go to an account. They can write them. They have a bank book where they can track their money. Nowadays, everything's done online, but in their generation, they're going to recognize a bank book and they're going to write things in it. It's going to help them keep organized, or maybe a notebook for them. Another thing you can do is let them keep a wallet with a small amount of real money in it. If you've taken all the money away because you're afraid they're going to lose it, that can be very distressing. Because when I'm working with people in, supported living facilities and they're like, it's dinner and I don't have any money, like my wallet's empty. It can be very, very upsetting, especially because they're not going to recognize bank card. They dealt in cash and in checks. So we want them to have some money. And yes, it might go missing and yes, it might get stolen. I'm not saying leave $300 with them. I'm saying leave three $5 bills. $15 back then was quite a bit of money. If $15 goes missing, if they give it to someone, if they hide it, $15 probably won't make or break anything too serious. If you really don't want them to have money, you could print money out and cut it. You're not supposed to photocopy money, but just photocopy one side, it might work for them. Keep files of very old bank statements for you to review with them when they're feeling anxious. So having their name on the bank statements from a long time ago, or you could print them out from their current bank so they can review and they can be like, oh, yes, I do have enough money to live off of. So this is a big concern for people who are living with dementia. And let them write checks to pay bills. If that's what makes them happy, and then you can shred them later. It's okay. It's not about the end result. It's about that process. Oh, you know what? You can write me a check here. Look, your daughter left a check for you, and they could write it out for $27.95, and then it just gets shredded. It's really good for them to be in control and feel like they're controlling their own finances. Another thing I hear a lot is, along with the money, is you stole my purse, my glasses, my hearing aids, my dentures. Don't know why you'd want to steal their dentures, but apparently you did it. So if someone with dementia is accusing you of stealing items, and again, this happens all the time because they go and they want to keep them safe, so they hide them and then they can't find them, and then you stole them because you're the next person they saw. It's easier to cope with the changes in their brain by saying that someone stole an item rather than try and remember or even admit that they can't find it. So some things you can do for them is your responses can be, oh, your dentures are missing. I can see why that would really upset you. I'm good. I don't need dentures, but I'm going to help you look. I thought I saw them earlier in your bathroom. And then you can go and you can start looking. A lot of times dentures get all wrapped up in tissues and toilet paper. They get thrown out very easily by residents because then they just think that little wad of toilet paper is garbage. Oh no, I must have put that in the wrong place when I was cleaning earlier. Let me go get it for you. Say it's their glasses, they were left in the dining room. You take responsibility, but not in a, yeah, I stole them kind of way. You're like, yes, I did see your glasses. I must have put them in the wrong spot. I'm so sorry. They're going to respond to that just so much better for you. Oh no, your glasses are missing. I'm so sorry that happened. Could I look around one more time? It may just have been put somewhere safe to keep them, protected. Again, let them feel like they're in control. Try finding their favorite hiding places for storing items. So if they a lot of times put their dentures, under their pillow, then you can go straight there and say, oh, I thought I saw them under your pillow. Why don't you go check? They'll check, they'll find them. They'll be happy. Buy copies of frequently lost items, maybe not dentures because they're too expensive, but say they're reading glasses and you can buy 3 of them for $10 at Walmart. You don't have to spend a lot of time looking for it. You can have it found very quickly, or a wallet. You can buy an extra wallet so that if it does get lost, you can find it. Whatever they're losing, if it's not expensive, have doubles or triplicates around so that you can find them. Another one I hear, and this is upsetting for a lot of caregivers, is when they say, "You're poisoning me. I am not going to eat that. I am not going to take those pills because I know you and you're poisoning me because I feel funny every time I take those pills." Paranoia and delusions can cause someone with dementia to believe that you are actually poisoning their food. And remember, with confabulation, they might actually have seen you put poison into their food. And so when you are being accused, you can respond by saying, "I understand that you're feeling afraid, but I just want you to know that I love you and I would never let anything bad happen to you. Have you tried the chicken? It's delicious. Let's have some together. And that way you'll know it's not poisoned. And you can tell me more about when you raise chickens on the farm, that kind of thing." Um, While using this, a similar calm response, you can actually eat the meal with them. If it's family, you can take a bite of their meal, kind of that, if it's poisoned, I wouldn't be eating it. So they might believe you a little bit more. It's a little harder if someone's in a care facility because you might not want to lean over and start eating their food. That might be seen as inappropriate, especially with COVID going on. But if you are, family, you can certainly use that. You can also ask them to help you in the kitchen so that they can actually prepare their own meal. There's a lot of things that they can do, and if they're seeing it being prepared, they might feel like it's a little bit safer. And if there are cooking tasks and they're able to help with that, let them participate in the cooking as well. Keeping them involved is going to help. If none of these are actually working for you, then go back, let some time pass, distract them, and then you can feed them again, and it might have passed by then. And another one I hear quite a bit is, "You're keeping me prisoner. I can't leave the building. I'm locked in here. You can't do this to me. I haven't done anything wrong. Why am I being locked up here like I'm a prisoner?" So for many people that have dementia, it is no longer safe for them to leave the house on their own, or they're in a facility where it's not safe to let them leave because they could get hurt or they will get lost. They can get injured, they can have an accident. And because they can't go wherever they want anymore, they might feel like they're being kept prisoner. So it's a very common feeling. I would feel that way too if someone wouldn't let me out of the house. Why am I being kept prisoner in here? So things like, "Oh, it sounds like you want to go out, but where should we go? Oh, you want to go out to McDonald's for coffee? I love that place. What do you like best about their coffee?" Just talking to them about where they want to go. Or we can go anywhere you like. What did you have in mind? That is a great idea. Let's go after we have lunch. I made your favorite pasta dish for lunch. And so let's go to the kitchen and eat. Again, you're taking them into a different room. You're distracting them, and you can take them out later. Do give them an opportunity to get out. This is really important. People who are living with dementia, when they moved into the facility, a lot of times, especially in this area, they might have been farmers or they're used to being out and gardening, and they never, ever get to be outside anymore because now they're on the 3rd floor of a building. Make sure they have the opportunity to get outside. That should be a basic right for somebody. Even if it's minus 25, 30 seconds outside, they'll want to come back in pretty quick, but they've had that opportunity. So take them outside, let them get to be outside. If it's not possible to go out, agree and pretend and help them get ready. And while you're pretending to get them ready, that's when you subtly redirect them to an activity that they enjoy. So just before I move on from this, I do want to just say one word. Still listen to people when they have dementia. So just because someone has dementia, it doesn't mean they don't always know something is going on. So if you aren't sure that an accusation is true or false, take some time to investigate that. That's really important. Maybe don't necessarily call the police in right away. It might be as simple as, asking your sister, mom said she had several $100s in cash and now it's missing. Do you know what happened to it? And your sister, well, oh yeah, she kept taking it in and out of her wallet. So I took it and put it in her top drawer. And sure enough, that's where the money is. So investigate things. If people are saying money is going missing, don't dismiss it just as they have dementia, yeah, sure, it's gone missing. Listen to them because a lot of times these are based in fact. So, understanding that a person who's living with dementia can live in a very different reality from ours is really the key we need to respond appropriately to them. So, when someone comes to us with questions and fears and accusations, and they want to come to us and they trust us, we want to embrace their concerns. So we want to deal with them. Sometimes it's as simple as, oh, okay, I understand this, and I would be happy to take care of that for you. So there's one resident that I work with, and her memory resets very, very quickly. She's always looking for a way out, and she's always looking for her son. Every 10 minutes, it's the same question. Where's my son? So she tells me she hasn't seen him in years and years and years and doesn't know where he lives. So I know her son's name. I'm going to call him Kevin. It's not his real name, by the way. And so when I see her, she's like, I'm looking for my son. I'm like, oh, I talked to Kevin this morning. He's going to come and see you tomorrow. I know her memory resets. I know that I can tell her that, and it does reset in about 10 minutes. And I say that over and over and over again. But that's all she needs to feel relaxed and calm. Another woman that I often work with, and she is very focused on her daughter. Her daughter, we'll call her daughter Melinda. So she's always asking about Melinda. She's confused if Melinda is her daughter or her mom. She gets them confused because Melinda takes amazing care of her. And when this one resident gets very upset, very agitated because of COVID, daughters haven't been able to come in and visit their moms. So the staff came and got me, and I went over there, and she was livid. She wouldn't even open the door. She just had it open a little crack. And I'm like, you're looking for Melinda? If you let me come in, I will call her for you. And she started getting really angry. And I looked at her, used my body language. I put my hands out so that she could take them, that she'd let go of the door, automatic autonomic response. She reached out and grabbed my hands. And I said, I am on your side. I am here to help you. I'm going to call your daughter. And she looked at me and she's very suspicious. She's like, you don't call my daughter like everyone else here, because they've just been lying to me. If you don't actually call her, you're going to be in big trouble. Walked in the room, picked up the phone, called her daughter, told her daughter that her mom was really, really upset, handed her mom the phone, and her mom started crying. She was suddenly so relieved. And the daughter was like, no, mom, I know where you are. We're good. I'm going to come and see you as soon as I can. I love you. It was a 2-minute conversation. And it calmed her for the rest of the day. So just dealing with what I could deal with for her in that moment calmed her down forever for the rest of the day. It was wonderful. Also, another thing I did for that particular resident, she had a whiteboard in her room. So I wrote a note from her daughter, Mom, it's your daughter, Melinda. I know you're here. I know you're safe. I'm coming after work, things like that, because I knew how she viewed time and she didn't have a grasp of it. So it could always be, I'm coming tomorrow. So be creative in how you approach things for the people who are living with dementia. Notice patterns of behavior. They often focus on the same concern, ask the same questions. So remember, when you find a technique that works well for that resident, share it with other people, because don't make everyone guess. Just it's so much easier on the resident if everyone's responding the same way. Be creative in things that might help. Know their likes and dislikes. And if you are in a facility and you don't know that resident's likes and dislikes, ask the recreation department. one of the beautiful things that we get to do is know people outside of just the care aspect. So they tell us things that they would never tell other people. We know from trial and error that they like this to eat, but they don't like that to eat. So take advantage of that. Ask the recreation department, what can you tell me about so-and-so? What works really well for them? It's wonderful because we get to know them on a whole other level. It's great. So when is a lie not a lie? A lot of people say, oh, I could never lie to my wife. I could never lie to my husband. I can't lie to my mom. So we're understanding now that we know what we need to do, what needs to be done. But is there anyone out there that still gets focused on the fact that you're lying to them? Here's the thing. We are not lying to that person. What we are doing is we are truly living in their reality. We are going to have a way better day. They are going to have a way better day if we understand them. Distraction, validation, redirection, rephrasing only go so far sometimes. So sometimes when we have a person who is living with dementia who isn't responding well, because sometimes I've been doing the whole validation, distraction, redirection, and they look at me and they're like, you are the most wishy-washy person I have met. And I'm like, all right, this technique isn't working. We need to go one step further because they need to know what's going on. And me saying to them, they're like, I want to go home. Oh, tell me about your home. Oh, no, I just want to go there. Why would I spend time telling you about it? They need more. And so I need to take a step back, regroup, refocus, and then take a step into their reality. We don't want to make them more frustrated. So if someone, for example, is saying, where's my mom? I can't find my mom. Instead of, knowing this resident, they're very upset. They're very agitated. Instead of saying, oh, your mom sounds lovely. Tell me about your mom. No, I don't have time to talk to you about her. I need to find her. I would easily, happily step into the reality and say, well, it's 4:00 right now. About where would your mom usually be at 4:00? And they might say something like, oh, she's probably at home starting to cook dinner. Yes, she probably is at home starting to cook dinner. That's where your mom is. She's at home. How old is your mom? I give them that concrete statement that they need. They know where their mom is. They've come up with, she's at home. She's cooking dinner. That's really good for them. So this is not lying. This is living in their reality. Another quick example, years ago when I had my first rec therapy job, I worked in an adult day support in Edmonton, and the buses brought all the residents in, the action buses and stuff. And one morning, this one gentleman was refusing to get off the bus. The driver could not get him off. He's a really sweet gentleman, very loving, very sweet, always patting your hand. So he kept saying something to the driver about his daughter. And the driver came, he's like, I can't get him on the bus. He's waiting for his daughter. So I go on in, I sit beside him, I take his hand and say, morning, Dad, it's your daughter. He looked at me, smiled and said, let's go. He stood up and came with me. Was I lying to him? No, I was who he needed me to be exactly when he needed it. He needed his daughter. I could be that person for him. It was very, very easy. So the one thing you want to remember from all of this is you are going to have a way better day. They are going to have a way better day, a much more productive life, a much better quality of life. If you live in their reality, and if you decide that you can be exactly who they need you to be when they need you to be that person. Validation, redirection, and distraction are all great tools, but if they're not working, be who they need you to be. Live in their reality. Thank you so much, you guys. I have truly enjoyed this topic. It's one of my absolute favorites. If anybody has any comments or questions, unmute yourselves and I'd love to be able to answer those for you.
You can also put them in the chat as well if You can't unmute.
I just really like to thank you so much for all this information. It's been a tremendous help to my husband and myself, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's my honor to be able to share this information. It really is.
I very much appreciate it. Thanks again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that.
Oh, no, it was well done. We've enjoyed every one of these.
Oh, good. Thank you. You just made my day.
That's great.
So I wanted to let you guys know that the PowerPoint presentation and the video will be sent out next Wednesday when Ellen is back. And our final session is next week, October the 15th. I hope that you can join us, and it's called Reactive Response Behaviors and Quality of Life. Tricia, I will reiterate, I've thoroughly enjoyed every session that I've been to as well. And even though
Thank
I've been
you.
doing this myself a long time, you know, you go to learn a few tips, right?
I still learn every day from other people, from residents, from other staff. If we stop learning, there's a problem.
Absolutely. So thank you all for participating today. And you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll see you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Bye.